Dexter, I've got to find something else than N64 games to play. So how about an NES game? So we got Dragon Warrior. I kind of already did Dragon Quest. Little Mermaid. It's not bad. Hey. Bad Dudes.
Hey friends, I'm Pragmatik and I like to talk about video games. And today I thought we'd try something different, because this is going to be the first NES game I've ever reviewed. And I thought what better place to start than Bad Dudes. Actually, I could probably think of a few other better places to start than Bad Dudes, but screw it, we're talking about Bad Dudes. Bad Dudes vs. Dragon Ninja, or better known as just Bad Dudes, was developed and published by Data East. I like to think that this game's creation was due in part by when the old folks down at Data East saw the success of Trade West Double Dragon and decided to try their hand at their own beat 'em up, and they did pretty good. No game before or after has ever summed up a story so well with just a statement followed by a question. The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president? That's it. That's established story right there in the palm of your hand. So let's get started. You get to choose between Blade and Staker? Oh, Striker, that makes sense. You don't have a beat 'em up if your main characters and villains don't have some sort of weird code name. Once you select it, strap in because this game begins immediately. You'll notice immediately that this game takes place on 2 layers of walking ground. This was a common feature for a lot of beat 'em ups, allowing you to not get so overwhelmed at one time. And this game can overwhelm you. You can begin to notice just how easily the president was kidnapped, because there are just ninjas everywhere. Blue ninjas, white ninjas, red ninjas, even ninjas that blow through snow. This game will be sure to meet your ninja quota for a while. While they might be the same type of enemy, their fighting styles are vastly different. The blue ones are your standard rush enemy, whereas every other ninja has a bit of a gimmick. You've got your white ninjas that are the worst in my opinion, as they'll just run up and throw these caltrops down and are just like, see 'em. Then you've got these sword ninjas. They seem to have a bit more going on, but really they just do this easily avoidable jump and downward stab. But what you really want to look out for are these red ninjas, as they are the only ones that drop items like power-ups and weapons. I don't like the idea of being able to get the sword ninja's sword, but you can't have everything. There are 7 stages and each one is relatively short. There are really 2 formats for a stage to have. Either a side-scrolling deal that for some reason moves further downward the more you progress, and then you have this slow-scrolling stage that is more like an endurance run. These particular levels can go on for a while and really whittle down your lives if you're not careful. Add on to that a boss at the end of each level and you've got some real difficulty on your hands. What are you doing here? What are you doing? Get out of here. Luckily, you've got a few ways to defend yourself. Aside from the regular punches and kicks and the occasional weapon, you've got a few techniques, like this cool spin kick you can do. And if you hold down the attack button, you start to charge up and unleash a devastating explosion punch? Haha, you don't see that in Double Dragon! This ability is pretty handy as it can give you some breathing room if you need it. Admittedly, I didn't find this out until halfway through the game, but it is nice to have a variety of moves at your disposal against all these bosses. This even makes for a bit of an interesting playstyle, because you can either try to use these moves to give yourself the advantage, but there have also been times when I've been playing where just overwhelming the enemies with punches and kicks have been the better method. The bosses themselves are also pretty gimmicky, like the first one you fight can be outsmarted by just jumping to each layer over and over and throwing in punches when you can. The second boss might literally be my favorite as he's just a tiny man with claws. I mean, just look at him. But really just crouch and kick him when he gets close to kill him. And the aforementioned spin kick is super helpful against this particular boss. Admittedly, it was until this boss and level that it all felt pretty easy, but I got taken down too many times in this level and totally had to restart. And I'm gonna be honest here, I didn't think I could complete this game on just what the game gives you. Luckily there's a cheat code to add some extra lives. Okay, I'll just put this in and whoa! I didn't need that much, man, now I just feel bad. But even despite having over 60 lives, this game was still challenging enough to really take a chunk of those off. This game is challenging to say the least, but it does have its blend of good decisions and bad decisions. I can't stress enough how much I like the added techniques, and honestly the movement is pretty fair. One aspect I especially love is jumping over the gaps. I've never seen a beat 'em up that works so well with jumping. Hitting up and jump near a gap will kind of just have the character make it with no difficulty. And when comparing this to Double Dragon or River City Ransom, that would be a godsend for any beat 'em up. But the idea of these two layers you can fight on feels like a missed opportunity. Like maybe adding in an extra route to take if you're on another platform to add a bit of variety to the levels. Especially since you have like 2 formats of play. I mean, you've got scroll level, self-scrolling level, scroll level, just some odd choices all around. As for the soundtrack, well, it's pretty good. Unfortunately, the soundtrack amounts to roughly 2 songs. Don't get me wrong, they are great songs, but each level could have used a personal song instead of just bouncing back and forth between the 2 tracks. A strange decision given that some of their sound design is pretty good. I'm sorry, what was that? Come again? One more time. All jokes aside, I really do love old games that try to make the best of spoken word sound bites. Also, not really related, but I cannot help but think of Castlevania's Bloodlines whenever I hear this song come up in Bad Dudes. Let me know what you think. Really, the only other complaint I have is that the game feel doesn't really hold up to the likes of Double Dragon or River City Ransom, because nothing compares to River City Ransom. But basically the sound effects are pretty choppy, none of the enemies really recoil all that much, and the only big satisfaction I get is landing that charged up punch. Bad Dudes is definitely an enjoyable beat 'em up that has each level feeling like a fun challenge, maybe just not a very well explored and kind of repetitive challenge. And I guess that's kinda saying something given that beat 'em ups are made to feel repetitive. Still, Bad Dudes had plenty of fun bosses that you had to figure out a method against, methods that would help you in the last stage that is basically a big boss rush. The soundtrack was good but very scarce, and for the infamous Dragon Ninja himself, he kinda sucked. But you can't deny that Bad Dudes has a great deal of challenge and what is possibly the best ending in any video game ever. He's got a burger! Hey guys, thanks for checking out the video. Was Bad Dudes the baddest beat 'em up around? Or did you prefer another game to satisfy your need for fighting? Let me know in the comments and consider liking and subscribing to the channel. I'm most active on my Twitter, so check that out and let's get a burger. And as always, keep it practical.